promoting the free exchange of ideas, questioning the status quo, and having some fun along the way. This is the Are We Idiots Show. Now here are your hosts, Mark Weaver and Rich Kroll.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Are We Idiots Show. We are your hosts, as mentioned, Mark Weaver and Rich the Kroll.
Hey, Mark the Weaver. It's great to see you. I think this is the first time we taped on a Monday evening. By the way, it's still the humidest summer.
I guess so.
It is the humidest.
Humidest?
Humidest
Sounds like a movie. The Humidist.
The humidest. Well, humidest is one level worse than most humid. So this is the humidest summer on record in the Philadelphia area. I feel like I live on the beaches in Houston.
Maybe you should have become a meteorologist. You're very fixated on the weather each week. Of course, we don't script this, folks. I don't know what he's going to say. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. But he's always bringing up weather. I think he's got a fixation on it. But
it's the highest paying job without having to be accountable or any results.
That's right up your alley.
That was a good one. That was actually very funny.
All right, folks. So welcome back, and hopefully you enjoyed our vacation episode where we did a Idiots of the Week, all Idiots of the Week show. There were some definite funny ones on there. But for this week's show, we're going to do our Idiot of the Week, as always. Then we're going to talk about the value, and some would say the questionable value, of the college degree in today's world. And then we're going to conclude the show. We haven't done this for many, many weeks. And as we've said in the past, we have plenty of ammo. When We Were Idiots is back, and Rich is going to share I'm sure, a very funny story to conclude the show. So
shouldn't it be called When Rich Was an Idiot? Because you seem to get away without ever having to do that.
One of these days. No, I've been an idiot. They're just not as funny as your stories. That's our motto. They've got to be funny, and you've always called me boring. So even my idiotic moments were boring, evidently.
Good point.
All right. So without further ado, I have some nominees for you, Richie, and here's number one. We're going to Tokyo for this one. A 24-year-old American man has been arrested after he urinated on another passenger during a trans-Pacific flight.
I got to hear this.
According to police, the incident occurred aboard an All Nippon Airways flight from Chicago to Narita Airport on Friday. The suspect urinated on a 50-year-old Japanese man seated 2 rows behind him.
2 rows behind him?
Yeah. He was restrained by crew and handed over to police after the aircraft landed in Japan. Police said the suspect had consumed at least 4 glasses of champagne and 1 cup of sake before the incident and told them he couldn't remember what he had done.
That's what sake will do to you.
That sounds like a common theme of all these idiots of the week. None of them can remember.
They don't remember
and
anything.
they have a great uncle that defends them. Police said the 2 men did not know each other. So, I have an affinity towards Idiots of the Week where drunkenness is involved.
Yes, that's a common theme.
they tend to attract me, stupid drunks. But so he gets all liquored up, and he had to have more than 5 drinks. That's all. He must have been drinking before I get on the plane. But the theory is that he thought it was like it was so polluted, it was like didn't even know where he was and thought he was in the bathroom.
Yeah, but I got to understand, how does he pee on a guy 2 rows behind him?
Well, he got up and he started walking. Like he walked and just like turned.
Oh, I thought he stood up from his seat and did a pee stream 6 feet behind him.
He's a world champion pee streamer.
I mean, that makes it even better, right?
Well, if he did that, that's not in the article. But if he did that maybe he should be congratulated.
He should be promoted.
All right, so that's nominee number 1. Nominee number 2, and if I know you at all, my guess is this one will win. Lexington, Kentucky. And, we should do a show on stereotypes sometime. It's a little bit dicey subject, but, sometimes, not us, Rich, sometimes people in the South get a bad rap for, maybe not as intelligent. It's a stereotype.
Right, the redneck stereotype.
Redneck stereotype. Well, Lexington, Kentucky. The son of a snake-handling Kentucky preacher who died from a snake bite says he also is recovering from his own rattlesnake wound. Cody Coots, 21.
Great name.
You love the alliteration. Took over services of Full Gospel Tabernacle in Jesus' name in Middlesboro from his father, Jamie Coots, who died after being bitten during the service in February. According to station WLEX, the family said, quote, "We have just put all things in the hands of Jesus. Cody did not sleep well. He is swollen and his hand is black, but he is sleeping now and is not in pain," according to the Facebook post. The Coots family believes they should not seek any medical treatment if bitten, and that the snake bite is God's will.
Of course.
The family expects Cody to be okay. Jamie Coots starred on the reality, this is the father, starred on the reality show Snake Salvation alongside Pastor Andrew Hamblin. The National Geographic show profiled the pastor's efforts to keep their snake-handling religious tradition alive. He had survived several snake bites prior to the fatal one. So, Sonny Boy picks up the family tradition after his dad dies from a snake bite, and he in turn gets bitten and is near death.
We could have done this one with the religious laws and rules.
With the Jim Baker one.
But here's what, in his defense, here's what a lot of people don't realize. And if you notice in a lot of medieval paintings of Jesus, his right hand is up in kind of a thumb out and fingers up in the air with what they kind of edited out for today's society.
There used to be a snake there.
He used to have a rattlesnake wrapped around his arm as part of his way to get people to listen. So,
well, that would truly be in Jesus' hands then.
Figuratively and literally.
Where'd I come up with that one?
Well, you're on fire today.
We didn't even rehearse that.
Nah, you're on fire. So,
must have taken my ginkgo.
Yes, Balboa. So we got a guy polluted to the bejesus belt.
And another guy in the Jesus belt.
And another guy in the Jesus belt. One guy stands up, either thinks he's in the bathroom or just hates Japanese people and pees all over the whole plane, which is just, I can't imagine what I would have done in that situation. And then we got another guy who is going to die or lose his right arm after his dad died.
It's a tough call, but that's why they pay you the big bucks.
They pay me the big bucks. But, the one guy got arrested, and we've all done stupid things when drunk. When your dad dies and you come right back and are maybe going to die or get your right arm amputated just a few weeks later, he has to win.
Yeah, that's nice. I knew you had to pick him because it's just so stupid.
And we never hear any of these types of real levels of stupidity above the Mason-Dixon line. So maybe there is a theme here.
Well, that's all Rich Kroll's theory. I'm never going to stereotype the Southerner. So.
I'm just notifying you of a pattern.
All right, so you're going to send it to the Full Gospel. You can make it payable to Full Gospel Tabernacle in Jesus' name, Middlesboro, Kentucky. So
check is on the way.
Just so you know. All right, folks. So then we're going to transition to our more serious subject of the day, and we actually wanted to do this for several episodes, but we figured we'd save it till back to school season. Many of us who have college-age kids and some that don't know that it's college kids are returning this week or next week at the latest. And I saw an article where I think currently we have accumulated $1.4 trillion in student loan debt. And I have 3 kids that have gone through college and a couple more that still need to. Rich has got that in his future. A lot of our listeners probably have put kids through college, and I'm sure we have a very affluent audience. So in my estimation, there's probably not a lot of accumulated student loan debt, but I'm sure there's some out there. But the reality is a lot of kids come out with a lot of debt. And I think the average is around 30,000-ish. But of course, when you have averages, that means there's tons of kids that have 6-figure debt. And of course, some that don't take out any. So that's what really prompted it, because we question the status quo. And this has been the status quo for at least the last 25 years. When you and I went to college was a lot less expensive relative to incomes. and it's grown a lot. So that's where I'd like to start. Why is it, Rich? I have an answer to this, of course. Why is it, do you think, that the costs of college have outpaced inflation by, I think it's like 5x over the last 25 years?
Well, it's a good question, and I believe it's because in one case, the professors are demanding more money. So it's not like grade school and high school where you might make 30, 40, 50, 60 grand plus overtime. I mean, some of these professors are making, six figures, and there's a lot of professors. I also think a lot of these universities are doing upgrades and building things to attract students. I know my alma mater, St. Joe's University, has thrown, I believe, $100 million into the campus over the last 20 years, including building new dorms, building a new basketball arena, and all sorts of other investments in technology. So
It's like an arms race.
it's like an arms race, right? Because you're recruiting kids, and if you got a crappy little local college, you're not going to win. So I think that those two factors are probably the main variables.
So let me add another dynamic, and it won't surprise listeners or you to know that it has to do with economics. And the reality is,
Are you about to educate our audience?
no, I'm not trying to educate. I just want to point out something that people don't realize. So, with the advent of the student loan availability, what has happened is more and more kids can get loans, and what that means is that the colleges know that. So the reason that there's an arms race with facilities is because there's an increasing supply of loans available unfettered. So if colleges know that the kids can borrow money, they can raise tuition. There's no check and balance on that because there really is no alternatives. And when you think about it, there's not that many new colleges being started up. Sure, there is the University of Phoenix and Strayer and some of those that have come up. But if from 25 or 30 years ago in this country, there's 100 million more people. On top of that, the Soviet Union, the Soviet bloc collapsed, and those students can come here now. China has opened up in the last 30 years, and those students can come here. So you have all this supply of students, not that many more colleges, and free money from the government. Because the money doesn't have to be paid back till after you graduate. So all this contributes to prices going higher because there's not that much competition. And that of course, that translates into professors being paid more too. But it's also going into facilities. And that's a huge problem. And people just keep borrowing. So why is that?
Well, by the way, I love the word you threw out earlier, unfettered. I don't use that enough in my daily linguistics. Well, it's like anything else, right? The greed.
This is just one area that I want to focus on, but that's one of them.
But the greed in the world, especially with executives and administrators, not everywhere, but a lot of places, and when you can take advantage of an area and make more money off it and not necessarily deal with the repercussions in your world or your lifetime, a lot of people are going to do it.
It's human nature. I mean,
It's human nature.
everyone, if you ever ask someone how much they should be paid, not many people will say, "Yeah, I should be paid less. Yeah, I really should." That's just not human nature. People, if there's money to be gotten, they're going to get it. People are self-interested.
Well, the other piece of that is, one of the big mantras of the government to look good is supporting education, funding education, giving everybody a chance to get an education.
Right.
So, a ton of our tax dollars go towards that, and people take advantage and leverage that in these universities.
Right. And then the second piece I want to talk about is this emphasis on getting a college degree. Now, when you and I were growing up, we had shop class in high school, right? We had shop class. There was a VOTech. Actually, there was actual separate site in Delaware County where VOTech students would go to learn auto mechanics, other kind of machinist, that type of thing. That's all been gone for 20 some years. And the government and everyone tells kids they have to get a college degree. And there's never been a proper bifurcation, I guess is the best word, of a specific college degree, because as we all know, in the liberal arts now and some of the other degrees that are easier to get, I don't want to disparage anyone's degree, but the reality is a lot of those degrees that we used to get 30 years ago that would get you an entry level job, they don't work anymore. Companies want specific skill sets. They want, in the sciences or the technology or math or engineering or nursing. Those are the jobs that get degrees right out of school.
Finance.
But if you get a, and I'll just pick, you get an English degree, you get a history degree, you get a sociology degree, a philosophy, psychology, speech communications, those degrees, unfortunately, I know lots of stories of kids that have come out and some of them have huge debt and it qualifies them to get a job that a high schooler can get. And so I think there needed to be, and there still needs to be, some like return on investment discussions with parents to say, hey kid, we're going to spend $120,000 for a speech communications degree. I don't know if that's worth it or not. And I don't know that happens now. I think parents have, this is our generation, parents have focused so much on my kid's going to get a college degree, my kid's going to college. It's an ego thing, I think, but they don't really take that next level of granularity and say, well, is this a wise investment and what degree are you going to get?
That's a huge mistake. And think about this. As the last couple of decades have evolved, we've become a very entitled society. Younger folk today, and I won't just say millennials, but younger folk today kind of expect their parents to put them through school, whether it's $100,000 or $200,000 or $50,000. They kind of expect their parents to buy them a car. I mean, they kind of expect a lot of things because as we've become more affluent, it looks like we can afford that if we have vacations and vacation homes and nice cars ourselves. But the reality is, if we're going to pay for something, especially above and beyond just basic food and shelter, we should have some say and absolutely have discussions in what you plan on doing, young woman, young man, and not just say, hey, mom and dad, thanks for the $120,000. I'm going to go get a degree in basket weaving and fertilizer evaluation. Wait a minute. Have you thought this through? What is your end goal? And even if you don't know exactly what you really are going to end up being in life when you're 25 or 30 or 35, can we talk about a path that makes sense? Because you'll be paying some of these student loans if I don't foot the bill.
Right. And it'd be one thing if the student truly was getting it all from mom and dad and it really wasn't their concern after the fact, that they were going to be in debt. But unfortunately, the statistics show that a lot of these kids are borrowing this money and not having these discussions or no one's guiding them with these discussions. And they're just going out, borrowing a lot of money and getting these degrees and coming out, can't get a good job because the market has changed. Employers want specific skills. Baby boomers like us, because of the financial crisis in 2008, that we've delayed retirement even more. So we're staying in our jobs longer. So there's less jobs available. So it's this vicious circle. And, I think there has to be some kind of disruption in this market. And we can talk about that next if you have any other comments on this.
And you don't have to be dictatorial about it. You can say, listen, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not demanding, that you take a certain path, but let's discuss it. Because would you rather have, $100,000 in student loans or $20,000 in student loans? Would you rather be in debt and not able to buy the house you want or the car you want when you're disconnected from daddy's wallet? I mean, there should be parental guidance.
Yeah. And so, something like this would be like, okay, so let's say I wanted to we'll use some local schools just as a point of reference. So if my kid wanted to be a teacher, well, what would be wrong with them going to community college for 2 years? They could pay for that with their summer earnings and then transferring to a Westchester, which is a relatively inexpensive state school for the last 2 years. And then you come out with, $20,000 in debt. After 4 years, you get a degree. Conversely, some of these same kids are going to Swarthmore, getting the same degree, 4 years at $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and they're in huge debt. I mean, so, if you're going to get an engineering degree and go to Drexel, well, that might pay off. You know what I mean? So I don't know that kind of stuff is going on in mass. It certainly is in a lot of families, but the statistics show that there's a lot of money being borrowed, and there's a lot of people not of in their 20s not getting jobs.
Yeah, the figure it out after the fact is a mistake, right?
Right.
Because you don't need a $150,000 degree to get a job that you can get, a $40,000 degree and get the same exact job. That makes no sense.
Exactly.
That's just an expensive license to party. But let's talk about what I'm sure you're going with next, the worth of the college degree.
Exactly. And the reason I wanted to do this episode is I read a book, and it's a case against education. You can get it out there. I actually have it on my desk here. But the point of the book is that, and you think about it, it's totally true, and most of us who've gone through college know this, the value is really not in the knowledge that you get in the classes. The value is the signal to employers that you got a degree. So, for instance, you could go to 4 years of college, go through all your classes, and if you didn't pass that last one and didn't get your diploma, you'd be no better off than a high schooler, according to the employers. Now, theoretically, you've had a full degree's worth of knowledge accumulated, but the signal of you not getting the diploma is the key. So 100% or 98% of the value of a college degree is the degree itself, not the accumulated knowledge, because the proof point is if you did that and said, well, I went 99% of the way through college, I just didn't get my degree. I took all the classes. The employer would say, sorry, we need a college degree.
Well,
so it's a signal.
Plus, I agree, but plus a lot of the stuff is outdated and becomes irrelevant. I mean, I studied marketing and business statistics and business management, and a lot of those theories back in the 70s and 80s have been completely overwritten.
Right.
With new process, new procedure, So, yeah, it's not about, and you had to take your electives or your mandatory classes in English, math, philosophy, whatever the case may be. I don't use any of that. I mean, I could care less about calculus. I'm sure you never got to that level, but
2 classes passed.
A lot of the stuff you
and
even study.
An emphasis on passed.
Yes,
barely.
Barely. I'm sure you might even have to do some favors to get that.
My calculus professor literally told the class, listen, I'm going to teach you calculus. You're business majors. You'll never have to use it. You're not building rocket ships, so we're going to do this together, but they have computers that do this nowadays.
That's a great teacher.
That's what he said.
I love it. It's a realistic professor. So it's not about the actual content and knowledge. It's about proving to somebody that you have the ability to take on something, read it,
stick-to-itiveness,
comprehend it, what you'll need in your job.
Right. So that brings me to the next phase of this, which is, and we see it, we're in the high-tech sales, and we see it with computer programming. And my question is, when will alternative education or skills development, when will that be good enough to have more employers start to say, yeah, and you don't have a college degree, but you have the skills attained somewhere else, and that's the new criteria. So we see it with programming in our space. If you can code, you don't need a college degree. If they give you a test, they show you, they give you a real complex way to code. If you can prove it, you got a job. And this is Google. This is some of the biggest, most advanced companies on earth. They have skills assessment to hire programmers because they're so desperate for good programming talent. They've thrown away the college degree requirement in many cases. Now, of course, a lot of them still do have a college degree, but there's plenty that don't. And so that's just one example of a skill where the college degree thing has been put on the wayside. Are there other examples that you can think of where that could become the norm? And do you see this solving this problem eventually?
I don't think it's going to change in the near future. I mean, to your point about programmers and coders, a lot of the most famous CEOs of the biggest companies we know didn't get a college degree.
Right.
Bill Gates is one of them, right?
Michael Dell, Steve Jobs.
On and on. Because they were so smart. They were probably smarter than their professors.
Mark Zuckerberg.
They started their own companies
Right.
even in their 20s before they would have got a college degree.
Right.
Now-
Now, let's be honest. They're outliers, extremely genius level. Right.
Outliers. But there are a couple fields where I agree the knowledge in college is necessary. It might be finance or it might be medical, like pre-med or law. When you get a law degree or medical degree, very often that stuff is used. But anyway, the point is no, because most, especially white collar jobs, there's an immediate assumption, and part of the criteria is it'll say you have to have a college degree. Now, do you really need one? Maybe not. I mean, if somebody's, especially in a sales position, if somebody's personable, knows how to build relationships.
How's that explain me then?
It doesn't. You're an outlier. If somebody has the ability to converse and ask questions and get someone to talk and make somebody feel comfortable, have interpersonal skills, and learn how to take someone through a process, they could be a much better sales rep than someone with a business degree. So the other area is, blue collar or vocational type stuff. There are a lot of skills, whether it's, working machines or working machinery or
Welders. I mean, welders can make 150 grand a year if they're trained. I mean, but that's what happened 25 years ago when this emphasis on the college degree started. And then parents, if your kid didn't go to college, it was almost seen like a consolation prize if your kid went into the trades. You know what I mean? And we gotta get away from that. I mean, that's a perfectly valid, anything where you work hard, that's a perfectly valid career, and there's plenty of kids that should be doing that. Germany's famous for having all kind of training programs for the trades. And our country, I think, went down the wrong path for that. And I also want to talk about.
But wait, just real quick,
go
case in point about that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that are blue collar from Havertown, our hometown, Havertown, Pennsylvania. They're more affluent and wealthy than we are because they took paths. They own their own painting company. They own their own landscaping company. They own their own waste management company. They own their own plumbing company. They're making more money than us. And if they went to college, it would have messed them up, actually.
That's true, but I would argue that most of them went that path back when they're about our age or a little bit older. And if you look in the last 20 years or so, it's really kind of started in the Clinton presidency, this emphasis towards everyone has to go to college. I think a lot of that has slipped. And there's still exceptions, obviously, but if you look at it, a lot of kids that should have gone into the trades were guided towards college because of embarrassment or their parents' ego or just the sheer fact that that's what they're told is the way to success. So that's that. And the second thing I want to bring up to you on this point is I don't necessarily disagree with you on. I want to disagree with you on the college thing. Why do we need gen ed classes in college? I'm sure a few of them are fine, but the first 2 years of a bachelor's degree is largely gen ed. Why couldn't there be some kind of fast track 2-year specialization in major without all the gen ed crap?
Well,
Isn't that a money grab by the college to try to keep you there?
I just brought it up as an example. I don't agree with it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were agreeing that you need a college degree, and it's not going to go away.
I think you need a college degree to get a lot of white collar jobs, but the content or makeup of that's a different story. I think a lot of those gen ed 2-year is filler,
right?
To create a 4-year scenario,
right? To
get more money out of the students. Why not just cut to the chase?
Yeah.
If I'm a business major, just take business classes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I think. I think that has to evolve as an alternative education somewhere in college where employers will say, hey, if you take this 2-year curriculum in business administration, finance, whatever, probably not engineering because engineering is a little bit more intense, but I would think that should be sufficient to get a lot of entry-level jobs. I don't know if it's going to happen because the colleges have this vested interest to try to keep you there for 4 years, or in most cases 5 years now, and it's a money thing. So they're in cahoots with the employers in a lot of cases to protect the value of a college degree. I don't know. I mean, I'm ranting a little bit. I know.
I think there should be a lot of 2-year degrees that are equal to a full-blown 4-year college degree.
Right.
And just have it concentrated in whatever you're trying to accomplish. I completely agree with you.
Okay. So lastly, what do you think is the timeline for this kind of stuff to happen? Do you think that we'll get to this. I guess I'll use the term affordability collision course we're on with families. Do you think we'll get to a point where kids won't be able to go to school anymore that want to? Because right now they can still borrow money, and college has been going up a lot, up and up and up. But at some point, you have to believe that if it keeps going up at the cost at 5 times the rate of inflation, it'll get to a point where kids just simply can't go. And will that force, some innovation in the marketplace to disrupt this market? What do you think changes it? I guess my question is short.
I think the answer already exists. There are plenty of great junior colleges and community colleges that have great teachers, great curriculums, but it's not cool. Or It seems like it's an extension of high school to walk down the street
or
and
you're
be
not
a commuter.
as smart.
You're not as smart.
Right.
Or who wants to be a commuter? It's much more fun to live on a big college campus that has football games and parties. So it's a lesser thing that kids are not attracted to. But ultimately, it already exists. If you want to shave $50,000 off your costs, take that 2-year path, and no one ever cares. You still put on your resume, I graduated from Villanova University, I graduated from LaSalle or Penn or St. Joe's or Temple. You don't even have to put the junior college and the community college on there. So in some ways, it already exists. But here's the dilemma. Nobody really cares about the student debt other than maybe the student and the family that is responsible for the student. It's just kind of like, oh, sorry, son, sorry, daughter. That's what it takes. You got to go into debt to get the better jobs, and the better jobs will pay back the debt sooner. But again, if you're making $50,000, $60,000 first year out of college and working your way up to $100,000, okay, that's true. But if you're making $25,000, $30,000,
working at Starbucks, right?
And then you might be in debt for 10 years. What's the point?
Well, the reason why I think all of us should care is because if you read statistics, millennials are not buying houses like prior generations. And when there's less supply of buyers, prices don't go up as high. And so not necessarily in our area or in the Silicon Valley or New York City, but in a lot of areas, prices of real estate is depressed because there's not as many buyers coming up. And a lot of that is because millennials have a lot of student loan debt and they can't qualify for as big a mortgage. So at some level, the younger generation being in debt does affect the macro society and us all, if we own houses at least, because it does affect other issues. It affects a lot of different things.
Well, here's where the macro effect will come into play, and the government's going to have to take notice. Right? In 2000, we had the tech bubble.
Right.
In 2008, we had the real estate bubble. Right? Now, we've had 10 years without a bubble burst, but
yeah, I'm holding my breath.
Hold your breath. $1.3 trillion in debt. I know a lot of smart financial people. They say that's the next bubble, which is going to create a huge problem.
Auto loan debt, student loan debt, $1.3 trillion. Of course, we've talked in prior shows about the federal debt of $21 trillion. There's the Federal Reserve and a lot of the central banks around the world have $5 or $6 trillion on their books. There's a lot of debt out there, folks. So beware. You heard it first on the Are We Idiots show.
That's the very first time you ever heard that. And I know you love the Fed, which will have to step in and help when this bubble breaks. But here's the deal. Bottom line, all this conversation, if you want a white-collar job, you still need a college degree. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, that signal of a college degree over your lifetime is still worth it. But I think what I'm trying to point out today is that you could probably do it smarter. And as alternatives develop, I hope a lot of people explore them. And particularly if you have to borrow all the money to go to college, folks, don't do the dumb thing and just send your kid off to a 4-year expensive school to get a liberal arts degree. Just don't do it. Be smart.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, Bubba baby. Right? Remember that? Remember Melly Mel?
Melly Mel.
I'm going back in time.
Way back.
All right. So we're going to conclude the show with When We Were Idiots. And Rich has a quick story for us. Lay it on us, Richie.
Well, it's not necessarily that quick, but it is a doozy. This will probably either horrify you or make you laugh really hard. So this is going back, almost 25 years. And a group of friends and I decided to do the old school routine, and 4 of us moved into this huge house in Ballackinwood, 5-bedroom split level house. It had a glass enclosed living room overlooking a hot tub and a pool. We had a kind of a dance floor with a disco ball and a keg, and we had a lot of parties. It was my good friend Terry McGurk, DJ Ferro, and Robert Buddy Dunn. And it was kind of funny because we were all in our 30s and cooking together and cleaning together like a couple of knuckleheads. But we used to have happy hours like every other Friday, 5:30 to 7. Come on over to our place, and there's usually something to do afterward. These things started catching fire, and we'd have 30 or 40 people at our house for happy hour. On one of these particular happy hours, I invited this girl from Sweden. We were just friends, but I was trying to see if she would think we're cool. Came over. We had our happy hour, great time, and then there was a party to go to, not too far away across the bridge, somewhere in Roxborough, Manayunk area. So about 12 cars worth of people caravan to this party. And I jumped in a car with my good buddy, 6'5", Jeff Hannes.
Don't know him.
And his fiance at the time. But we happened to be the last car in the caravan. And this is pre-cell phones. And, people are navigating stop signs and street lights and traffic. Hand signals, smoke signals. Invariably, we lost the group. So we got stuck. We're in Manayunk, Roxborough. And Jeff goes, you know what? We're going to have to pull over and use a payphone to try to figure out where everybody went. But I have an idea. To kill some time, there's a bar right down the street, a little local beer and shot place called Fat Edna's. Let's stop in there, have a drink, regroup. There's a payphone. Great idea. So we go
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? So we go in there, and this is a quintessential, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Neighborhood bar where everybody gets along regardless of race, color, creed.
Sam Malone was behind the bar.
Sam Malone. We have business guys in suits. We have bikers in their colors, that kind of bar. So all of a sudden I see Jeff lean over to the bartender and start whispering something to him and kind of looking back at me. And I'm like, that doesn't look good. Unbeknownst to me, there was a famous Fat Edna's burger. Now you got to picture this thing. People would come from all over, Maine, Long Island, Mississippi, to attempt to eat the Fat Edna burger in 30 minutes.
Was this planned, by the way?
We're on our way to a party.
But no, he didn't have this all planned.
He had no idea until
this
we
is
walked
spur
in.
of the moment.
Spur of the moment thing.
Okay.
So he says, my nickname Crawler. Listen, I just told the bartender you could eat the Fat Edna burger in under 30 minutes. I go, what? Whoa, wait a minute. What is this? He goes, well, here's what it is. It's a 3-pound meatloaf with a full, Italian loaf of bread cut in half, a full tomato, half head of lettuce, pickles, and it's the biggest thing you've ever seen in your life. I go, dude, no way. He goes, listen, they're not open for this. They usually cook it real nice so it comes out. The guy said he would do it, but he's got to microwave it. He's going to the trouble of doing it. You have to do it. And I'm the kind of guy under a dare. Right. I have to do it. So the thing comes out, and if you ever microwaved ground meat, it becomes almost as hard as cement around the edges.
Right.
And I look at this thing. Thank God I was starving. I hadn't eaten since lunch. And this is back when, I was a big guy, I could eat a lot. So I go, all right, man, let's try this thing. Meanwhile, people start huddling around because this is the famous thing in the neighborhood. Word gets out, this guy's going to try the Fat Edna's burger. So Jeff comes over. He had to hold it down like a wrestling meat. He pushed the thing down. We cut it into 4s. And
He
I'm
just
like,
started shoving.
let's go. They start the timer. I got the first quarter down, no problem. I got the second quarter down, not too bad, problem starting. I struggled with the third quarter, starting to get veins bulging in my neck.
Sweat. I'm sure the
starting
meat
to
sweats.
sweat.
The meat sweats were all over.
Oh, the meat sweats. My heart's beating. My ankles and feet started swelling up, and I got a quarter to go in about 8 minutes. Now, meanwhile, he's massaging my neck. He's like my corner man in Rocky. Come on, Rock, you can do it. And he's got a bottle of ketchup, a water bottle, and he's squirting the last quarter. And he goes, come on, Crawler, you can do this. Meanwhile, there's literally 40 people in a circle.
Cheering you on.
Chanting USA. I think it was the Olympic year. USA, USA, USA.
Meat champion.
People in Eagles jerseys. I mean, people in Flyers jerseys. So I got to do this. I have to do it for the good of America. And I'm getting the thing down. I'm about to pass out in a food coma. And the bartender goes, you got one bite left. Just get it in. Close your lips on it. I'll give it to you. So I struggled to get the last bite in. I closed my lips over it, and the bartender raises his hand like I just completed the triathlon for the gold medal for the United States. The crowd goes nuts. People hugging each other. People asking me for my autograph.
And Mount Vesuvius Blue.
And, well, even worse. I realize, I was with this girl from Sweden, and she's a vegetarian. So
there goes your shot with her.
I look over, absolutely horrified. Then I got my picture taken.
It was worth it, though.
It was worth it. I got my picture taken. The bartender and all these people with the Eagles jerseys and putting up the.
I want to see that
sign.
picture, by the way.
It was on the wall. I think the place closed down because of some
Health-
type of health and drug violation. But there I was on the wall, and then we ended up finding the party. By the way, I was constipated for 6 days, and I was hallucinating for 3 straight nights.
My daughters, the 3 vegan daughters that I have, probably don't want to hear this story.
Well, people will be happy to know I don't eat red meat anymore, and that's a big reason why.
Wow. The Crawler and his this was where he was his image was built at Fat Edna's.
Yes.
Good story, Crawler. Okay.
Very proud of that story.
Go. So, folks, make sure you listen next week. I know I had threatened to do this for a while, but we're going to go into the topic of what is a libertarian anyway. I, of course, have mentioned a lot on the show. Rich mentions it that I'm a libertarian. But what is a libertarian, other than me? What are the principles behind libertarianism? We won't be able to cover it all, but we'll be able to give you a primer, not a primer, a primer next week on libertarianism. So it should be fun for me. The rest of the audience may not be.
What about me?
Well, you're going to be my foil, right? You're going to shoot holes in my libertarianism.
We're really going to do this.
And we're going to do this next week. So, as always, please remember, if what you see or hear sounds idiotic, then we're just the guys to help you sort it out. See y'all next week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Are We Idiots Show. Please subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher so you can enjoy all episodes.
On my soul.